And good evening, everybody. Hey, welcome to this episode of the Note Closer Show. As always, Scott Carson here to rock your world with some great content. We've got an amazing guest today. This guy is a Texas real estate entrepreneur. He's a realtor, an investor, a note investor as well, who's doing some things. And while he called Austin home for years, he's living down near where I grew up in Corpus Christi, Texas, kicking butt and taking names. And we actually connected originally at South by Southwest last year. I loved what he was doing to expand his real estate YouTube channel by having a booth there and connecting with people. And you probably see me wear his shirt, the real estate entrepreneur shirt, once or twice on a podcast episode. But we've got Matthew. Oh my God, I'm just drawing a blank. Teifke, right? Did I get that
There we
right?
go. Teifke, but we'll take
Teifke.
it.
Teifke. I'll make sure I get that right. I'm dealing with a cold here. But anyway, what's going on, Matt? How you doing this morning?
Hey man, I'm doing great. I appreciate you having me on your show. I'm excited. It was good to reconnect with you just recently, and hopefully it can bring as much value as we can. So thanks for having me
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, no problem, man. It's always I love having people that have pulled the trigger and closed on deals. And it's often hate to say this, but there's a lot of realtors out there that don't understand the investing mindset. They understand the inside the box aspect of things, but many of them are leaving like rats leaving a sinking ship, that they don't know how to market. They're not investors themselves, and they don't know the power of paper when it comes to buying notes, whether it's buying performing or non-performing, or the power that goes along with this. And you're one of those guys that do. So kudos to you and your partner.
Yeah, man, it's an interesting deal because I've been doing this for about 13 years. Started when I was 18, and when I first got started, it was like notes weren't exciting to me. Now, 12 plus years later, they're actually really exciting, and I don't really exactly know what it was, but I think probably, when you own properties, it's great. We own a lot of single family, but we got to pay taxes, and in February we're going to have a ton of taxes that are coming up, property taxes and expenses and all that, and so I guess I was just thinking notes aren't that cool because they don't appreciate, but they straight up cash flow, which is what people like about real estate in a lot of ways. So we bought seven now, and I'm trying to buy more. And I also wonder, I'd love to get your take. Is it kind of market driven? Like it does seem like they're a little bit more popular and talked about now that the market's changed. But maybe that's just me in my world, and they're becoming more popular with what I'm doing.
Well, I'll tell you this: when I started doing this back in 2007, 2008, notes were around, but the predominant factor was about creating notes, owner financing, buying or selling on terms. And that was, I structured a ton of those deals between 2004 and 2008 with folks. What wasn't as popular was the non-performing side. That was much more of a niche within the niche. And people didn't really know about buying individual notes. They thought about creating a note, selling on terms or owner financing. That's been normal, but they didn't understand that there's this whole secondary market out there that really has kind of evolved since the big recession, 2008 and beyond. This whole secondary market's popped up with non-performing and stuff that you can buy from banks or institutions. I mean, I've been buying that for a long time, but it it became much sexier when more inventory came around. I mean, there's always been non-performing notes, but it became much more prevalent in being able to buy. I call it kind of like the crumbs. You live on the crumbs of the big banks moving stuff, or stuff, a big $50 million portfolio gets split up into 5, 10 million ones, and that gets split up into a couple $5 million tranches. And then finally you end up with a smaller pool that people are looking to move. But maybe I've helped make it a little bit more popular with our podcasts and the YouTube videos and explaining videos, because there's not that many people that teach it. But it's definitely gained popularity. It kind of slowed off a little bit during COVID because the inventory got a little bit tighter, as there wasn't as many non-performing stuff, wasn't as much stuff institutional that you could buy. But it's definitely, I'll tell you this, Matt, when my phone or email or LinkedIn starts filling up with asset managers reaching out to me to see what I'm buying, it
Yeah.
tells you there's a trend coming. That's, we're 6 to 12 months out, depending on what state you're investing in, of a, I don't want to say tsunami of distressed debt, but definitely an increased, a rising tide of deals for the most part.
Yeah, that very fascinating, and that's the whole thing about what we do as far as being entrepreneurs is just adapt. The market's always changing, and the industry's changing, and so just got to adapt. And another thing, Scott, I'd like to hear your thought on is it seems like I guess what you were saying at the beginning is like a lot of people are creating these. They're looking to create these to offload them real quick. Like I've run into some people recently that they're buying land, they're parceling it off, they're getting 5K, 10K down payments, and immediately trying to sell it. And I get it. Uh, One thing that you got to know the game and just know what to look out for. And I'm like, well, it's a cool concept, but are you jacking the price of the land up? Because if you are, there's a lot of risk if you got to go take back land that's got nothing coming in.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I've seen other people out there teach that. Oh, you're the bank, you can overcharge what the asset is worth. You can add another 10 or 20 grand on the house because you're the bank and your valuation is all that matters. I said I can understand that if you're planning on holding the property for, holding that note for 5, 10, 20 years. But
Yeah,
if if you're going to turn around and try to sell that note immediately, which a lot of people do, you got to know the true value of the property. And yeah, we see that happening. I get phone calls all the time. Oh, we're looking to sell our note. I'm like, well, like this one. I'll give you a great example of this note for sale on a platform was selling. They're trying to sell it for 35. The UPB was 50. It was on a lot in Sarasota that sold earlier this year for $3,500. And I'm like, your asset's worth $3,500. And like, oh no, we sold it. We sold on terms for 40. I'm like, well, that's great, but you haven't even seasoned that note or let that payment stream come in long enough to upgrade because it's still showing as a distressed sale. You got to give it
yeah,
time. I said, you only paid 3,700 for it. You should be trying to sell it for 10, not 35. You know what I
yeah,
mean? If you've gotten a year of payments based on your terms, you've already paid off what you paid for it. I mean, and that's the difference in talking with people that come from the real estate side who don't understand the note business. There's a disconnect in there a lot of times because they don't realize, oh, I own the real estate. Well, yeah, you don't. If you're buying the note, you control it. You don't necessarily own it anymore. And if you're trying to sell that um, relationship or sell that connection, you got to understand what the true worth of that underlying asset is. Because yeah, if you have to take that asset back, you don't want to initially own a lot in the swamps of Sarasota, Florida. That you
yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean?
And one thing that I preach on, man, and I've tried. I mean, I've really tried hard to learn about as many aspects about real estate as I could. I mean,
Right.
multifamily, industrial, and I've done it. Like I was an appraiser. I worked at a commercial brokerage, and so although like this aspect of me buying notes is relatively new, I can quickly understand all the concepts because I've tried to be a student of the game. So I know the word seasoning is like easy to understand quickly, but like I didn't ever think about that until someone asked, and then I instantly got it. Like, yeah, you want to see that someone's committed, that they've been paying, and all this stuff. So it's really fun, man. And there's so many aspects of this business, and so it's really good to just keep an open mind. And like right now, um, we're talking to a lot of sellers that they're in tough spots. Like if, in my opinion, if you're really selling, and we have some properties too that we're selling, but it's not a great time to sell. So if you're trying to actually sell, there's a reason.
Yeah.
And so there's so many people that are like, hey, I owe, I'm having these conversations daily. Like I owe 340,000. I've got it listed at 370. It's not selling. And in my head, it's like they could list that thing at 340 and it still wouldn't sell because there's
Yeah.
just very few people buying. So it's like trying to come up with some creative ideas of, hey, if you rent this out, you might be negative, $300, $500 a month. And that is horrible. But if you can keep it for 5 years, it'd probably be a good deal.
Right.
What if I commit to covering half of those losses with you, and I become a 50-50 partner? Like there's so many creative. It's kind of along the lines of notes in some sense, more just of a creative concept.
Right.
But this is the time that you have to be creative, and I'm like really enjoying going down this note path because it opens up all different ideas that it can apply to different aspects of the real estate business.
Sure. One thing that you might take some interest in is we target properties or withdrawn listings for potential subject to deals, or somebody
Yep.
in that situation, house is worth 370, they owe 340, they got to get it off their credit, or they got to take that monthly responsibility out of their budget, maybe not get it off their credit. But going to somebody like that, hey, if you've got a low interest rate, sub 5, would you be interested in somebody taking over the payments, taxes, and insurance on it? And if your house is truly worth 370, well, let's lock in your equity and I'll pay you that equity in 3 to 5 years.
Right.
and me as the buyer, I'll take over payments, and my goal would be to either turn around and depending on what the rent rates are, put a renter in it, cash flow a couple $100 a month, while that underlying mortgage is getting paid down. The principal is being reduced,
Yep.
value's going up, and then in 5 years I sell it. Well, I'll pay their 30 grand in equity, roughly 20 grand or 10, whatever it is. But now I've made a lot more profit by just holding it, and the principal's been right down. Plus the monthly spread in the difference between the rent and the underlying mortgage payment. Now,
Right.
that's like a rental. You could also do owner finance, where you did a mortgage at 9% for 370 or 400 to somebody. Somebody brings in 10% down, on 400, that's 40 grand. Now they're at 360. Same thing, it's maybe just do an interest only payment on the 360 at 9% interest only. That's going to be a much higher than if their mortgage is at 2 or 3%. And so it's the same thing. Paying down the underlying mortgage, your 340 stays the same because it's interest only. Because we all know buyers just look at their budget most of the time, right? And you put 40K in your pocket in a down payment. You got monthly cash flow coming between what you financed it to and what the underlying debt is. And then the third payoff is when you sell it in 5 years, is that difference between the payoff and then the new value of the property, and going from there. So
Right. What do you think about doing those kind of ideas, but keeping people on as percentage partners?
it all depends. I don't like partners personally. Now, if it's their house and they have equity, yeah, you keep them on. I would say keep them on. So I'll keep you on and I'll pay your equity over a period of time. No payments for 24 months, and I'll start giving a monthly thing or something like that. You
Yeah.
know, because here's the thing: people, when they are desperate and they need to sell or need to move, they can hold on for a little while most of the times, but most people don't have any savings these days. And with inflation being through the roof, they've got to cover some things. So if I can say, listen, you got 20 grand in equity, we'll lock you in, but if we'll take over everything, and as long as you need that 20 grand to go where you're going, or
Yep.
reduce that difference in equity by what commissions would be and closing costs. You really have no equity after closing. Let me just
Yep.
take this over and take this off your credit for, off your stress mine. Somebody's paying it. That's the thing. It's all about the motivation side. I mean, the more
Right.
creative you be, like, hey, I'll bring you on. But often I'm not saying you can't do that. If somebody's got a ton of equity,
Right.
50, 100 grand or more, that definitely makes a lot more sense versus somebody who's, is narrow aspect of no equity to little equity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's the challenge that I think a lot of realtors and most people that are in the business is that they don't have enough creative solutions and they just do one thing.
Yeah.
And really, you got to go on just a fact finding mission and present different ideas and let them pick. And I think that the industry doesn't really have that at scale. As far as like you're an owner, is there somebody you think of that's going to come give you all your options? Not really,
So,
and that's what we're trying. That's really what we want to be. And it's hard. I mean, you gotta know the game and you gotta know the language, and it's hard
well,
to train that.
you also have to fight through the ignorance of the other party,
Yeah.
of the other
Yep.
listing agent who doesn't understand it. They don't understand the philosophies or the policies or the creative. They're only worried, well, I'm not going to get paid my commission, or
Yep.
unfortunately, most realtors don't understand creativity. It's that inside the box. It's got to be sold traditionally with a traditional mortgage, or they do the knee jerk reaction. That's illegal. You can't do that. Like, no, you can do that.
Yep.
They just didn't
Yep.
teach it in the real estate school for the most part.
Yep.
and,
Yep.
and motivation too changes as time increases. If a
Yeah.
house has been listed for 6 months, what do you see the normal listing time for houses? 6 months, a year, sometimes.
Right now, yeah. I mean, it's
The
just
law Each month that goes on, that's money out of the investor or the owner's pocket that they could have not had to pay. And that's why we target withdrawals a lot of times, because it's realtors out of the way that can screw stuff up a lot of times because they don't know, and that's okay.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
the longer this stuff drags out, the more motivated people get to get creative. You know,
Yep. And it's just tough right now, man. I mean, I really, from what I'm seeing, and from just my thought process on the market and interest rates, is just like nobody's buying. I mean, we are closing some deals, but like, how can you go and afford these properties when your payments double, triple what it would have been 6 months ago? So it's just like I don't even know if you can establish what values are right now because it's like you think it's this and you can go 20% lower and it's still not going to sell.
Yeah, and that's where it comes into knowing the total numbers, if there's any equity or what is involved with it versus just what Zillow says, which is
Yeah.
where most, unfortunately, majority of people look, oh, my Zillow says my house is worth this. Well, maybe it was, but it ain't now.
Yeah.
We see that here in Austin. I mean, prices went through the roof and then they cooled off. Well, you've seen a 5, 10, 15% reduction. People want to start screaming that's a crash. I'm like, no, it's more of a correction. And people are
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm upside down my house. I said, well, you're upside down your house if you try to sell now. I mean, if you're going to be in it for 3, 5 years, you'll be fine. Market will come back. You're going to have those annual corrections a little bit, but you're going to be fine.
Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about real estate is time solves all problems with I mean, you got to be in a market that jobs and people are coming to, which we are in Texas. But time is going to solve all those problems.
Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this: you're living in Austin previously. What attracted you to Corpus Christi or the Gulf Coast as a
Yeah, man.
real agent?
Well, there's a lot of opportunity here that not a lot of people are talking about. Um, but really, it started with family. Like I got two young boys, and man, we go to the movie theater, and there's five people in the theater, and you're not walking through and stepping on people. Something about less people. It's a slower pace of life. That was more on the family side. And then there's a lot happening here. It was kind of just a blessing in disguise for me. We felt led to come here, but then all of a sudden, Elon Musk opens, Tesla battery plant in Robstown, and
Yeah.
they're raising the bridge here, and tourists, not tourists, but cruise ships are going to be coming in and out of here, and manufacturing, and we're in Texas, and it's much more affordable. So I'm really just chasing opportunity at the same time as trying to keep the family happy. And there's just a much cheaper real estate. There's little to no competition, in my opinion, and it just feels like there's a wave happening here. But it's a beautiful place, man. I mean, we go to the beach a couple times a week. A lot of people have strong opinions about Corpus one way or another. Um, and at least for me, every time I meet somebody who doesn't like Corpus, I say, "Well, how often do you go to the beach?" Never. I'm like, "Well, that's the whole deal. I mean, it's the
Right.
water, it's the coast."
The windsurfing regatta, the stuff like that. But yeah, you're right. I mean,
Yeah,
there is a tremendous amount of growth down there. For those that don't know, you've got a lot of oil and gas down in Corpus Christi with refineries has always been a big business. And Matt talked about the raising the bridge. Well, they're building. We've got the scenic harbor bridge that goes over the port of Corpus Christi. Well, they're literally rebuilding a bigger bridge so that it can accept cruise ships and other large oil tankers and stuff like that to get into there to increase that stuff. And it's you've got the Corpus Christi Hooks Double A affiliate of the Astros right there. And it's a great place to watch the game with ships coming in and the bridge and seagulls and they're at Waterburger Field. Of course, it is the home of Waterburger in Corpus Christi, which is great.
yeah, and
You know,
HEB.
and
Yep.
Hebe, as we like to call it here, everything is better. Yeah, great seafood. I mean, you've got that stuff. Then, of course, across the bay in Ingleside, where I grew up, you've got what used to be the Minesweeper base is now another dock, and then you've got oil and gas over there, and then you have all the big offshore derricks that are dropped in the Gulf of Mexico are usually built there in Ingleside or Ingleside in the Bay too. So, I mean, that's the thing I've always loved about that area is it's not just Corpus; it's the Texas Riviera, as they call it, going up to Rockport. You know,
Yep.
Aransas Pass has been Aransas Pass. I think is also one of the big areas that's been not looked at because it got hit hard with a hurricane a few years ago. But there's a lot of real estate, a lot of older folks that have lived there that are looking to leave or they've got equity in their properties or they're on a big lot and they have a smaller house. I mean, that's pretty common in Corpus, a small house on a big lot that needs
Yep.
to be updated or and can grow in a lot of cases. And like I said, people are moving there because it is cheaper than San Antonio and Austin, Dallas and Houston, but you still got a lot of the amenities that you would get in a bigger city.
Yeah, man, and like, I mean, there's these big deals. Like a lot of people in Austin haven't even heard about this Tesla battery plant, right? There's a company called Steel Dynamics, $2 billion deal in Portland. I mean, these huge things happening, And when you have jobs, that's one of the first things I learned about real estate was, obviously you always hear location, 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 but jobs, 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 just as important, right?
Yeah,
And they're
exactly.
coming.
Well, and then you've also got a big contingency of snowbirds coming down from the colder states during the winter,
Yeah.
make their home there in the Gulf Coast as well too. For you, of course, it's also close to the border. You got a lot of stuff going on with the border and in the
Yep.
valley
Yep.
too. But yeah, it literally is an untapped market out there in a lot of cases that people don't recognize and don't
Yeah.
see the opportunity unless you're down there and really got your ear to the ground to hear what's going on.
Right. Yeah. So that's what's got me here, man. And it's a blessing, and I'm just trying to make the most out of it. And I'm going to some of these small towns, like I was just talking to the city manager in Beeville,
Yep.
and he said 200 jobs. It's a sand mining, and they're just 200 jobs is a lot for a small town. It's probably more like I don't know 500 to 750 people.
Yep.
So these small towns are very welcoming, and I love Austin, man. I'll always love Austin, but it's kind of like you want to move a company there. I feel like it's probably like get in line. They're not rolling out the red carpet. You call Beeville or Goliad or Kingsville, you'll be sitting down with the mayor, the city council. They'll be showing you properties. They'll be giving you tax incentives.
Yep.
And we're still in Texas, so it's an
And,
interesting dynamic.
and you've got room to build too, where land isn't so expensive like it is up here in Texas or the Texas Triangle between Houston and San Antonio and Austin. Plenty of
Yeah.
room to build and grow for a lot of stuff. Yeah, I that's one of the things we're looking to do is probably when we do end up selling here, moving somewhere closer to there. And you've got different universities, Texas A&M Corpus Christi, Beeville,
Yep.
or it's not B County College like it was when I was there. It's something else now. Of course, Del Mar College, and there's a lot of higher education there. Or was it what's Del Mar called now? It's not Del Mar Community College? It's something else, isn't it?
No, it's still Delmar.
The Vikings. There we go.
Yeah, yeah, yep. Delmar Vikings.
Now you said transition and falling in love with the note space. You guys bought some pretty decent deals down in the valley there. You want to go over a couple of those, kind of how you kind of came across them, and without giving away too much information on your secret sauce.
No, I'm an open book, man. I just, a lot of what I do is networking, right? Like I'm constantly trying to meet people, as many people as I can, wholesalers, realtors, developers, and we got a good sized team in Austin. And what I try to be is somebody who can have a network of solutions. So, like, you find a development deal. I know 5 developers that actually know me well and trust me, and we can get a deal in front of them, and they'll give us some equity, right? And so this was found through a wholesaler, and he had 5 properties in Alice, Texas. Um, he posted what it was worth. He said, "Hey, they owe 250," and I think he at the time he was asking like 160. And I just threw out a number. I said, 115. And then I just held firm to it. And over a week and a half, knowing right now, you can always lose a deal, but now's the time that it's really in your odds that they're going to come back to you versus, 8 months ago, it's like, you got to step up and go
Right.
to get the deal. Now it's opposite. So you gotta utilize that. And I said, "Hey, we got the cash," and we did. We were sitting on the cash, and we'll send it over to you right now, right? So 115,000, we bought them. It's right around 4,000. Man, it's the first time first time I've been getting checks because we've got a structure and a system in place with all our properties where people are managing it, and I hadn't got checks for like 10 years, and I'm like, this is beautiful. I mean, usually those checks are going to the mortgage,
Right.
and it's like right around 4,000 a month, and it's worth more than double what we paid for it. And I'm just like, this might be the best deal I've ever done.
Right. So you got 4,000 a month in cash flow coming on that
Yep,
times 12 months. It's 48 grand in cash, and you paid $115,000 for these notes, right?
yep,
That's a 41.74 return on investment. That's not too shabby, you know, cash
yeah,
and cash return there for you. Pretty good. Now,
yeah.
they owed how much again? How much they owe? 230,
250, 250.
250. And the
Yeah,
property's worth what, 250 or 300 or more?
yeah, more. And one of the guys, he moved out like before we closed, so we just He just gave up on it. So I think we could sell that house for like 40, 50K conservatively. And I mean, that's going to make the deal 10 times better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. A little cash infusion. Get a third of your money back
Yeah.
roughly in the first 6 months of the deal. That's not a bad. Yeah, as we call that return is called enough. You know what I mean?
That's a good one. You know,
But but that's the thing is that there are a lot of those little deals down there because there have been some investors down there that understand that they're smaller houses. So a bank isn't necessarily going to get excited about to do a mortgage on $100,000 house or something that's a 50, 60. But there are plenty of investors who have structured deals like that over the past to put people in houses, and now those properties have appreciated, or people have decided they want to move out or move out. And there's a lot of those little opportunities like that out there that may not make you rich, but they're going to actually build a lot of cash flow that you can get rich over time.
yep, yep. That's it, and that's what real estate is, right? And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of people. I don't know why, but they like the idea of owning real estate, and then they always just kind of shy away from it. And it's like, this. I'm 13 years in, and this is a great deal. But they're not all going to be great deals, and but you got to go do deals. It's
Yeah.
like that one we were talking about earlier. It's like, it's you buy it for 10, it's worth 12, you get $300 a month. It's like, well, it's a deal. Like, go get it done.
Yeah.
Maybe do it with some partners.
Well, that's the thing is so many folks are so used to the HGTVs to flip this houses, so they think they've got the real estate. When they think about investing, they're going out and changing the carpet and painting walls. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And I got beyond that years ago. Like, I don't want to do any of that crap. I mean, if I have to do it or hire somebody to show up to do it, okay, I'll do it if I have to. But I'd rather sit at home, do what the hell I want, hang out with what I want to do, and have cash flow rolling in. And if you look at cash flow that you're making on the mortgage payment, you're probably making more than most people are doing renting a house out. Making that
yeah,
split between they owe, and it's a whole lot less, more passive versus active.
right. So I think it's good. I mean, I know everyone has their own niche, and if you just do straight notes, it's amazing, and you'd be really great at it. But I also think it's good to just have a little bit of diversity within real estate. Some
Yep.
notes, some assets, some loans, whatever it may be.
Right. One of the things that is, I think you've got an advantage over most folks is that network of smaller cities, because you can hit 5, 6 cities in 30 minutes in a lot of places out there. But a lot of those, you can actually go in and meet with the city planning or the mayors to find out exactly what's needed. In a lot of
Yeah,
cases, they need more affordable housing like everywhere else does. Is that lead to an opportunity for mobile home parks or RV parks or mini home tracks? As affordability is always a big need in a lot of cases out there, and being able to find those opportunities. And heck, there's even some cities in the valley that will give you the lot as long as you come and build a house on something in 3 to 5 years for the most part too.
yeah, right, yeah.
So what's your ultimate goal, man? I mean, you're definitely a motivated guy and the passion for helping things. What's your goal for 2024?
Yeah, I mean, we're really trying to dial this in. I have a big vision of, we have the brokerage, right? And there's a lot of agents that get their license that want to do the things that you and I are talking about. But like, and you tell me, is there anybody nationally or that you think of, right? It's like, this is where you need to go if you're an entrepreneurial real estate agent. I don't really believe it exists at scale. And that's my big vision, is to be that place. It's a big goal. We definitely need help. But that's who I am, what I was always looking for, and we just had to create it. But it's like, come here to TRE, build your own brand, build a team, be an entrepreneur, invest, buy some notes. When I was at places, it was kind of like you kind of felt like ashamed if you were like buying a property or flipping a property because your broker wants you to make more commissions.
So
I
well, they
mean,
want you to make more commissions so they get a piece of the commission.
right, right. And so, like, I really think there's a niche. And there are people that do this, but I don't know anybody who's doing it at scale. And so we've proved it out in Austin. We've got 135, 40 agents. We got 6 here in Corpus that work with us. And I'd love to just build this out all over the country. And the outcome and the value to us is we end up just doing a bunch of deals with people and partnering. And we all buy and own, and I just feel like too many of us in this business have uh, similar goals, and we're just all competing, and we're not teaming up. And so the vision is to get teamed up with the right people, create generational wealth, build something that we're proud of. And we absolutely know that we need more people and more support to make that happen. So I'm not trying to force it into existence. I'm just trying to find the right people. I'm trying to support our existing team, and to keep it simple, to build the most entrepreneurial brokerage that there is. And I don't have to be all over the world just to be all over the world. But we believe in what we're doing. We think that we provide a solution for people that want this. And at scale, if you get your license and you want to be entrepreneurial, it's like, where do you go?
Right.
I don't think it exists.
No, there's little pockets here and there. Like I've got a guy who's a realtor out of the Twin Cities in Minneapolis. He's a real estate entrepreneur, but he's part of a smaller team, and he got interested in investing before he became a realtor. And that has led to people on his team seeing what he's doing and wanting to get more involved. But it's not a national aspect of it, or even statewide in a lot of cases. It's all about the traditional buying and selling of real estate as a broker, not
Yeah.
and not helping yourself. And that's the only way you're going to get ahead in life is building wealth, is buying some stuff for your own portfolio, not just flipping
Yeah.
contracts or flipping sales.
Yeah, and like those like guys like that, or that would be my vision, is to team up with people, to get this in other spots. And I don't know if you're following, but there's so many changes, man. I mean, the NAR Keller deal, that's going national, and it probably looks like, they're probably going to lose. The jury's going to side on the side of homeowners, and so
So
now
why
there's
don't
no.
so share with it, because I've been keeping up a little bit with it, but why don't you share with it our audience? And this is obviously depending on the date, it may be different than but what this is all about, the who's paying commissions a lot of time and how much, right?
Yeah, and essentially, it really does come down to what you're saying and how you go about it. And I'm on the outside, so I'm, reading this on Yahoo News or
Right.
whatever, talking to people. But the concept, I think, and I still am kind of like, don't know which side. I can understand it now more that I've thought about it, but like, I'm selling your house, Scott, and hey, Scott, the commission's 6%. 3% goes to a buyer and 3% comes to me, right? I'm kind of uh, I'm kind of like telling you that you have to pay the 3% to the buyer if I don't do this, and lay everything out in a clear, concise way.
Right.
But when you say like, hey Scott, if you want to lower the commission, and it's going to be 2% to the buyer, then nobody's going to come show your house.
Yep.
So I'm kind of like setting that price where you have to pay it. So in that side, I understand it, right? And so they're basically saying, realtors have been taking all this money forever, and you got to pay it all back. And it's to the tune of, Keller and NAR just lost the $1 billion lawsuit, and they're going to appeal it. And but the second they lost, they filed a national one.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the jury, from my perception, and I haven't gone through all this, but like movies that I've seen, it's like they're always going to side on the side of the little guy.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, I mean, there's two sides. It's not like realtors were trying to screw people. I mean, you signed it, you agreed to it. You could have paid another realtor less. You could have
Yep.
negotiated it. But it's like, how did you frame this to the person signing? That's probably where the issue could be.
Right.
But if that plays out in the worst way for realtors in some sense, there'll be no buyer agent commissions. It's like, or there will be, but it's like you got to go negotiate it with your client, and honestly, probably how it should be, right? So like, I'm for whatever is right. Um, that's why I haven't really wanted to be the all time realtor my whole life. It's like, to what you said, you got to be an entrepreneur. You got to take care of yourself. I mean, that's the world that we live in. Is do good business, and when someone engages you as their realtor, be their realtor.
Right.
But a lot of times people don't want that. And so you put on a different hat and you make it clear, I'm not representing you. I am licensed. I'm representing myself. And when you don't know the game, you could probably get into some weird situations. And that's why everyone's so scared. But when you know the game and you know the language and you know how to do things the right way, there's opportunity everywhere.
Yep. I totally agree to that. And that's the thing too, is with the emergence of a lot of these iBuyers and things like that and automation, I think you're going to run into more of that. People are like, well, I can buy a house with an agent. It's like, yeah, you could, but do you really want to? That agent's there to help protect your ass and cover your ass from what you don't know because they're an
Yeah,
expertise. It's well, that's worth something, you know?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, there's so many things that we have access to everything online, right? But like, I mean, how, do you trust it? You can
Yeah,
watch a YouTube video saying this and that, and there could be 10, and those are the only 10 you see. But like, you do need experts, you do need professionals, people you can trust, and there's a lot of good agents and there's a lot of bad agents. So
right. Exactly.
complicated.
It is complicated. Now, you and your partner, Alex, started teaching stuff and have a workshop too. You want to talk a little about that, Matt? What's involved with your workshop that you guys
Yeah,
offer?
man, I love it. Appreciate that. So December 1st and 2nd in Plano. There's tickets, $97, $500, different levels. We're spending a lot of money on this, and really our vision, everyone does things different. Like there's these events and they're motivational, and that's great. But ours is really just like, let's get in a room and let's make some money together. There's some training and there's a workbook, but how do we hustle? We're not making money on the event, but what we can do is make money on doing deals with people, and that's really what we want to do. And so I don't know, man. You do these events, and it's like at the end of the day, it's great if a lot of people come, and maybe it's a hit to your ego if a lot of people don't come. I don't know, but it's like, how can we get people in the room who are serious? Let's do
Right.
some deals. We're running a big space, and we're spending like probably 30 grand, right? Like 10 grand a day, and then all the stuff. And it's like, yeah, it'd be nice to make the money back on the tickets, but really, it'd be nice to just get around the right people.
Right.
So you can be a beginner, you can be an expert. The more people we get together to hustle together, to my vision of like, we got the same goals. Let's just do this together, right? Let's buy this note together. Why are we going to compete on it?
Right.
And competition's good in a lot of ways, but like if we're trying to get cash flow from real estate as investors, I know you know this, but any building you look at, for the most part, you go drive around downtown Austin, not one person doesn't own that. Like probably 200 people own that. They're buying these things together, and that's how
Yeah.
you get these bigger deals done.
And that's the big thing is it's all about we coined a term a while back in the industry called co-opetition. Everybody's kind of working towards the same thing, cooperating. We're all very competitive in nature, but if you get there a whole lot faster and go a whole lot further if you're working and cooperating with folks.
Yeah, and you can still do great business, and people don't get it, man. Like some people think like when you're not an investor and you're not talking to people that have to sell, it's really easy to say like these are people that take advantage of people. But when you're in the trenches and you realize that, first of all, people are only going to make decisions that, they want to. But you're providing people solutions that don't exist and you're getting creative. There's not other people that are doing this. Like, it's
Right.
not like these iBuyers are great, but they don't, you don't click the button and get all these ideas. You get a low cash offer, and that's one thing, right? If you want to take it, take it. But when you can go in there and really provide solutions and ideas and be an advisor, you're really doing something that people need. And it's not an easy thing, and people are in tough situations, and that's where got to have integrity. And there's a lot of people that do those deals and they don't do them the right way. And they're learning too, right? I don't think most people have bad intentions. Some people might, but they may make a mistake, and vice versa. And we sign up a deal, and then the sellers change their mind, and they say this about us and that about it, and so it goes both ways.
That's right.
Um,
Totally.
and so it's a tough business, but learning, growing, and all teaming up, and what we want to do at that event is just share the knowledge and wisdom, let people ask questions. We're there for 2 full days, staying at a hotel and everything, and just get around people that want to grow and get aligned, and let's all help each other and figure out how to grow together.
Exactly. And the dates for that is December 1st and 2nd in
Yep.
Plano. And then we'll put the link to the thing. And it's open to investors, realtors, anybody in the real estate space looking to be more of an investor. It's open
Yeah.
for the most part, right?
Yep. Yep.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we'll share that. And what's the best way for our listeners and our audience to connect with you, Matt, to follow up with you or connect with you?
Easy, man. I mean, we're everywhere. TeifkeRealEstate.com. My email is mattteifke@gmail. We're on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. We're very easy to get a hold of.
Yeah, and then the spelling of the last name is Teifke. Now, what is that?
Oh,
Is that Czech? What's the background on that?
yeah, it is, man. It is Czech.
There you go. Are you taking your daily slot of Slivovich? You know,
Oh man, that's generations ago, maybe. I don't. I'm born in Cleveland, Ohio.
my ex-wife was a Czech out of Bay City, Texas. So every morning her grandparents would always have a little nip of Slivovich. It was the daily medicine to help cure off colds, sore throats, and anything else that the devil threw at you. Nothing like a little bit of plum vodka every morning to get the thing going.
Nice, man. I don't even know what that is. So it's
Oh,
vodka.
it's definitely a plum flavored vodka. Not
Slinovich.
yes, a little Slivovich. You go to your local liquor store and ask for it next time.
I love it. Yeah, my grandma's name was Estvonic.
Okay.
Straight Czech, man.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Good stuff there. Well, hey man, thanks so much for coming on, sharing your mindset, sharing your goals, sharing deal flow. It's always good to connect and network with like-minded individuals. You might just see me in Plano come December 1st and 2nd.
Hey, man, that'd be very cool. I'd appreciate it. I appreciate your time. Um, and I enjoy having you as a resource, when I'm looking at notes. So thank
Yeah,
you.
same here, buddy. Same here, definitely. Well, go out, take some action. Matt shared some great ideas and goals and something working for it. And that's the thing is it's all about not who you know, but who's in your network to get more things done. You can be a lone wolf, but you're never going to go far as a lone wolf trying to get it all done yourself. It's all about connecting with like-minded individuals, folks that have the same passion and same goals and working towards a common goal. So go out, take some action, everybody, and we'll see you all at the top. Bye.
Peace.